Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast here with Jessica Bun Bun. This is our review and reaction to Sunny, Season 1, Episode 3, Battle Bots. Okay, who else out there
Oh.
watched that show? I don't know if it was actually called Battle, but it might have been called Battle Bots, where you're watching those
Mhm.
like robots fight each other.
Absolutely. I used to watch that, but this was so different. I felt so bad.
I
And
know.
I mean, this show has done such a wonderful job making me really feel for these robots and these home bots of like they feel right.
Yeah, this is such a cool show. Like I'm really in on Sunny through 3 episodes. Is it incredibly weird? Yes, but they
Yes.
have also established why it's weird, how
Yeah.
people are reacting to this world where
Mm.
these homebots do exist, but this is also kind of being transposed to the story about Suzie and her grief and how
Yeah.
she's dealing with losing Masa and her son and how she's trying to figure out what her next move is. So there's a lot going on in this episode, both in terms of trying to understand the mystery, but
Mhm.
also building up this kind of unusual world around these characters.
Yeah, and that's sort of the big question I have leaving this episode and for you guys too. Leave it in the comments. Is Sunny actually a friend or a foe?
I'll give my answer that Sunny is a friend to the extent that she is a reflection of her creator, and her creator is Masa. And I think Masa, in the end, had good intentions. Now,
Is Masa a friend or foe?
I'm gonna say Masa's a friend as well.
Okay.
This is my big tinfoil hat theory for
Yep.
this show right now. Is that Sunny, whatever memory previously inhabited this Sunny robot, did some very, very bad things. Like that part of it is clear.
Yes.
But that robot, despite being, in the same quote unquote body, did not necessarily have to be this Sunny. After all of that happened, Masa may have reprogrammed Sunny or altered the programming to some extent, and now Sunny is effectively a completely different person. And with that in mind, I think we can treat Sunny as a separate entity to whoever this killer bot was earlier on in the show, or I am just lighting myself up trying to make sure that I can justify this robot being in Susie's life and not being bad. I'm believing what I want to believe.
It was interesting, but during that whole battle bot thing, when I saw poor Sunny come out, I mean, I think
Yeah.
we all thought that that was going to happen, and she came out and she looked so like innocent, rolling out like I don't know where I am, I
Yeah.
don't know what's going on. She's so cute.
Mhm.
I was wondering if she was going to have one of these flashbacks that she had when she was in sleep mode, where she saw Masa put a blanket on her and there was blood everywhere. That maybe she was going to have another one of those flashbacks and she was going to kill this other robot, and then all of a sudden be like, "What's happening to me?"
That is a dark ending. I mean,
Yeah, but I'm glad that they went this way instead because it was good to see
yeah.
Susie step in and help her as well. It helps further bond them.
Yeah, it does. And I think that relationship is going to be pretty essential to sort of figuring out what lies ahead here. But we're
Yeah.
going to try to make sense of this episode, a lot of the key players, what's going on here. So before we get further into all of the mysteries, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we'll be here through the rest of Sunny. It's a very entertaining show.
Yeah.
We're definitely on board the ride.
Absolutely. And if you're also watching Criminal Minds Evolution, we are covering that exclusively on our
Mhm.
Patreon. We will leave a link for you below in the description if you want to check out those episode reviews. We're covering it every week with a new review over there. And thank you so much to everyone who has joined our Patreon.
Thank you guys. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start by identifying the new and mysterious player who's kind of at the center of a lot of what's going on in this episode. Like I said in the premiere, I had a minor in Japanese in college. I might still butcher names here and there. I apologize, but we
We're
have
all on the ride together trying to figure it out.
yeah, we have Hime, who is this blonde woman who we see trying on different fingers
Yeah.
early on in the episode. It turns out that, she's very involved in this BattleBot operation.
Mhm.
But then beyond all of that, we also see her at the end of the episode at this memorial service that Noriko has been putting together for a good chunk of this episode.
Yeah, I mean, what are her ties to Masa and the robots? And my tinfoil hat theory
Mhm.
is that there's been a much bigger organization or group of people that are behind I'm a tech, and that Masa was part of this program that was working with these robots. But once he realized what was happening with these robots, that they were programming them to be able to basically be assassins and go into people's houses and take out whoever they
Yeah.
want, like this counselor that is dead. And there was a home bot there. We saw the blood tracks. That this is what the organization is doing to be able to use these robots to get into sensitive situations where they wouldn't be able to get a person in, but they can get a home bot in. And once Masa realized what was going on, he sent up the wolf signal to try to warn people that this is happening, or his resistance group, that he's got a group of people that he's working with to kind of be like, okay, how are we going to save these robots? How are we going to save the people that could be hurt by them? That the organization that's behind all this is so massive that they are such a smaller group that, like, how are they actually going to be able to do anything with it? And that's why I think Masa and, disappeared him and his son and sent the robot over to Suzie because he's burned.
I think he's burned. I think he realizes this is probably his only option. I don't think he's sitting back wherever he is. And I'm like you, I don't think Masa's dead. I think
No,
he's
I don't think he's
still out there, but I think
dead.
he's reached this situation where he doesn't have many options. He doesn't have many people he can trust anymore. And he knows that Susie is smart. And
Yeah.
he knows that if something happened to him, she would probably pursue it. I mean, she's having a hard
Yes.
time, but she would try to get some sort of answers. I mean, what we're, I think, seeing here with this whole organization, with Hime, with some of these other people taking part in these robot battles and all of this other unspeakable stuff that's going on involving these robots,
Oh,
it's a reminder that, technology can be used for good, but technology can also be used for a lot of really corrupt and terrible things. I mean, this is something we're all going through in society right now. I think this is why this show is particularly timely
yep.
in that way. And I think Masa was probably one of the good guys who was trying to steer this in the right direction, but I could understand why he felt cornered by this, because it certainly seems, based on what we saw with this BattleBot operation, they're making some good money down there.
Yes.
They're really getting some influence, and if there are all these other sort of ways to get capital, to get, allegiances, all this other stuff from using these robots, bad people are going to do it. That's just an inevitability.
Absolutely. And I think that this organization is using these robots for, as we saw, all kinds of things,
Yeah.
whether it's the battle bots or things we won't talk about, or, killing somebody. It's just what they're using it for. And I'm sure they're getting money from all these different avenues because of this. And because they're robots, they're not losing actual people. So they can continue to just make more robots and keep their organization really big. It's what I did really like, and what I said this in the premiere, and I still
Mm,
think it's happening. It's my tinfoil hat theory that the
yeah.
mother-in-law, Masa's mom, is involved somehow, because when we saw Susie go over and be like, "Hey, I need this picture that Masa drew of this wolf eating its tail," and she's like, "I don't know where it is. I threw it out." I'm like, "Okay, which is it? Did you not know where it is, or you threw it out?" Clearly, she knew where it was, because she ended up deciding to give this to Susie to
Hmm.
try to give her motivation to get out of bed, because Susie, ever since she got those shoes, she is inconsolable. She's just in bed. She's in her son's room. She's crying. It's been weeks. She just can't get up and get motivated. But once she got that picture, she's out there. Her and Sunny, they're out there.
I think the mother Noriko is really interesting within this show in that you can make a couple of arguments. You can make an argument that, okay, she does know a lot more than she's letting on. I mean, lying about that picture, how she's able to sort of go about and plan things, assuming that Masa is apparently dead in her mind. Is this a function of her knowing where he is and knowing that, okay, they're not ever going to let him out, or they may have already done away with him, so I need to just mourn him and move on? Or is this just a coping mechanism for her where it's easier for her to just mourn him,
Yeah.
move on, than actually try to accept the possibility that he's still out there?
Or is this a cover up? And that's
Mm,
where I'm kind of like wondering and feeling like the mom knows that Masa's still out there, and she knows about maybe not everything, but some stuff. And the fact that we saw sort of this a leader in the organization or whoever it is, the blonde woman, actually show up to the funeral, I think that the mom set this memorial up to be like, yeah, he's actually gone. You know, we're having
Mhm.
this memorial for him, and if you want to have confirmation that he's actually dead, here it is. And that might actually be able to let Masa move a little more freely because people won't be looking for him anymore.
Maybe Noriko knows that she can't look into what happened to Masa because she's being watched by X, Y, or Z
Right.
people, and she's trying to get Suzie to look into it,
Yep.
and maybe
Good
that's a
theory.
sign. But I mean, the problem here is that we also know that people are already watching Suzie as well, so I don't know how well that's gonna go.
Yeah, but she may be thinking that people aren't going to be taking Susie that seriously, especially with her being in bed and not really leaving the house for a couple of weeks. We even saw some of the people watching her being like, maybe there's no movement here. Susie's just not leaving the house. She's not doing anything. So maybe this was a big nothing burger and we're watching the wrong people.
All right, since we've talked a lot about trust issues on this show already,
Hmm.
do we trust Mixie, who is the bartender
I
who is
know.
kind of sort of a friend for Susie, but it also feels like she doesn't have the greatest job in the world. She's having a hard time with some of that. She arranges to meet up with Susie later, but it also feels like, is she with Susie right now because it makes sense, but she also knows how dangerous these people are? So when push comes to shove, is she going to sell Susie out? I do think it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have any real connection. So would Mixie sell her out? Sure. Why wouldn't she? I mean, it's kind of that world, right? But at the same time, what is her motivation to help her? Is she somehow maybe connected to Masa or know what's going on? She's claiming that she only got this little bit of code this one time
Yeah.
to do what she did with her home bot. But was she lying? We don't know anything about her now. I think she's just not being very honest about everything that she does know. I mean, she was able to help Susie, get to the person who gave her the little bit of code,
Mhm.
dark manual stuff, and then bring her over to Tendo, which was where everything was going on with the bots. She seems to have a lot more connection than she's kind of letting on.
What I do really appreciate, not just about this episode, but the entire first three, is that all of them have worked to functionally move the story forward in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know what happened to Masa. We don't know who did something to Masa. But at the same time, I think it's good for Susie to know that, okay, whatever is going on here, it's a pretty deep operation. And I think
Yeah.
as she's kind of going through a lot of her grief, I think one of the things she might be sort of questioning is, okay, why did he not tell me that he was working in something other than refrigerators? But I think the further that the story is going, the more she's probably realizing that, okay, he really thought that I would be in severe danger if I found something out. And it's not just because of one person, it's because of all of this.
Okay, who is do not answer? We need to talk about Noriko picking up their phone,
Yeah.
calling, do not answer, and then hanging up. Who is it? Who do you think it is?
Is it Masa? I
I had wondered if it was Masa because I think she's protecting that he's not dead.
yeah, I think it's okay.
But then I thought maybe the blonde lady.
I think there's a couple of different scenarios here. I think Masa's an interesting one, but it is a risk still. If she's trying to act like Masa's gone, having any sort of communication
Right.
with him at all would be really, really bad. I mean, it still, caught my attention just because if you are emotional and you're going through some
For
stuff,
sure.
you might try to break the rules here or there. But
Mhm.
having it be the blonde woman is
Mhm.
interesting in itself because, at the end of the day, she showed up at the service. She had to
Right.
figure out why or where the service was happening, and there had to be some sort of communication there. But it's also possible that this blonde woman has something over Noriko that is not even tied to Masa at all because they've really shown that Noriko's really down with a lot of technology. She may not
Yeah.
have a home bot, but she's having these video game nights. She seems like she is a pretty contemporary woman. We don't know what may be held over her. And it may actually be, okay, this is a real crazy
All
tinfoil.
right,
All
let's
right,
go. Extra
all right,
tinfoil.
put more
Okay,
on
let's
here.
go.
Okay. what if this is not even fully about what Masa's doing? What if this has actually been about what his mother has been doing all this time and that he has actually been taken
Nice.
as collateral and
Hmm.
we're on this sort of big elaborate misdirect. Maybe Noriko does have something that's going on with Imatech and the robots and all of that, and that is a part of it. But there's just also this extra component to it where she just they know that they have to get to her somehow, and if they're going to get to her, taking her son and her grandson's a big way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be that. I mean, she could be under duress, and maybe that's what's going on. Yeah, great theory.
Thanks. No, this is a fun show to kind of go through a lot of this just because we don't know that much about these characters yet. And these episodes have been pretty short. And I think they've done a good job of sort of telling the story a lot from Susie's point of view, where she is an outsider in that she moved to Japan. Culturally, she's an outsider. She's still trying to figure it out. She's still struggling with certain parts of the language. And we're kind of seeing a lot of this from her shoes. And because of that, we're getting kind of these limited snippets of information. And it's really just all what the writers want us to know about these characters or what Suzie gets to know about these characters. And they could all be putting on a performance to her.
Yeah, and at first I was like, "Oh man, these episodes are so short. Like it
Yeah.
feels like this show goes by in a blink every single episode." And we're not getting to really get to know the other characters, but the more that I'm watching it, the more I'm like, this makes sense and this is good. It's creating such an atmosphere of we are really only seeing things from Susie's side. We don't know what the
Mhm.
motivations are of other people. We don't know what's going on. And it's making so much discussion
Yeah.
for us to kind of figure out, who is do not answer.
I don't think this is going out on a limb because I think that this is a show that's gonna love twists, but the comparisons to Sugar to me at this point are pretty clear, and that both of these are kind of these conceptual Apple TV Plus shows that have a unique premise, a
Yeah.
reasonably well-known star. But for those who haven't seen Sugar, I won't spoil it here, but there's this huge twist that comes midway through the
So
season.
good.
It's one of the biggest twists of the year. I don't necessarily think that Sunny is going to have a twist on that level,
No.
but I think that there is going to be some sort of big twist that's going to be coming that makes us rethink everything about Masa and what's going on here. While I do think that he is innocent at the end of the day of whatever wrongdoing is happening, and he's trying to do what's best for the world, really, with these homebots. I think he has good intentions. I think somebody is going to plant something in the next couple of episodes that makes it seem like Masa is a really, really bad dude, and that's going to be sort of the barrier that tries to keep Susie from investigating further. If she realizes that he was just a bad guy, is she really going to want to dig into it more?
Yeah, and they're already kind of doing that where she's using this wolf symbol and seeing all the horrible things that it's attached to. That's
Yeah.
like, if he drew this and this is his logo and this logo is opening up these things, and he's very clearly involved in all these bad things. But what I wonder is if he's started out bad but ended up good, where it
Mhm.
was like we saw that flashback where his mom was like having to leave food outside his door and he seemed like he was in some sort of depression
Yeah.
back in the past. Is it possible that he got roped into something that he thought was going to help him, or he thought he was, part of, or he got stuck doing that was bad, and then as it was going on he just couldn't live with doing that anymore and he had to find a way. It was like, well, I'm already in too deep, so what can I do from inside the organization?
I think this is a show that is a lot about guilt, that is a lot about shame, about overcoming obstacles. And I think whatever happens at the end here, I think some of that could be reflected through Masa. I want to believe this is a hopeful show. I want to
Yeah.
believe that we're going to build towards an interesting ending here and that people will find these sort of unique connections and bonds. I mean, Sunny is such a bright and positive robot that I want to believe that her and her current iteration is innocent, and I am excited to see what comes for her as long as there's no fighting between her and other robots.
No, she's so cute.
Don't do that to her, guys. But okay, we will be back, of course, to discuss more Sunny. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on that. Smash that like button, and you
Yep.
can support us further by joining our Patreon. We have a link in the description. We are covering over there exclusively Criminal Minds Evolution. You don't want to miss that. And
Yep.
we'll see you here next time.